In a world with entirely too many shows about cars, this is another pointless automotive podcast.
Good day, sir.
What's happening, Frank?
Oh, I'm trying to get fancy. I've got some new headphones. I've got an actual microphone. We will see. Maybe I'll now have a true voice for radio coming across the airwaves, and I'm not using like the counterfeit dollar store like gamer headset anymore. So that's
Shame.
good. I feel good about that. How about you, man? There's something new in the background. New and
Is
blue.
there? What's new?
Well,
That
old,
Nissan?
new and old.
Yeah, the old Nissan just chilling back there. Probably got some talking to do about that later, for sure. PCP
boy.
style.
And what year is that? Not to bury the lead, but like, what is it? 91?
93. So the final year.
Oh,
The final countdown. Boom.
93. Well, I mean, that was a whole different animal compared to what was going down in 1983.
Ooh, I see what you did there.
Yeah, because
Taking us way back.
it is, because that's towards the oldest that we generally discuss here on the pod. The early to mid 80s, and it's top of mind because I happened to stumble upon the Car and Driver 10 best list, which they started in 1983. And so you and I got to some late night lying in bed, you up girl text message exchange about what we might talk about. And we came to the conclusion that we should just go down this list because there's some fun stuff, and we'll do 5 years, maybe the first 5 years, and maybe we'll come back later one day to the next 5 years. But that 5 year span, 83 to 88. Interesting time in the world of automobiles.
Starting right off in the peak of the malaise era, primarily, of course, due to the 79 gas crisis, where fuel was now double what it cost just a few years before. So it was a rough time, man, for automotive enthusiasts, but we still have some gems, I think, coming up.
You think that's why they started the 10 best list in 1983 is because they just couldn't conceivable do it prior to that? Like, that's
80,
how bad.
Yeah.
Like
82 was a shit show.
Like 76 to 82 time span was.
Yeah. What's also interesting is as we buzz through this, we're obviously doing 83 to 88. Is that right? 83 or 87? It'd be
83. 83.
That's 5 years.
84, 85, 86, 87. Yeah, sure. Oh, that tracks.
So to 87. And what was I going to say? So, some of the cars that are still popular today, and then some that we obviously lost along the way. Some really great cars, but we're going back to Malaise 83 to start, man. Did you want to do it in any particular order? Because I'm just kind of shooting randomly through.
No, I like just shooting random because it's funny. It's just kind of grazing over these lists. And 83 probably is one of the more interesting ones among them. Is there some heavy hitter stuff where you're like, oh yeah, that was for sure a best car in 83, and then you get to another one like, that was a car? Like, you just no idea. Like a complete, what to us now seems like an also ran, but like back then was just like one of the best cars on the market, which is just wild to think about how far we've come, right?
Something a little French too, Monfrere, I think is on the list.
What's that one? You want to just start with that?
You want to talk about it? The AMC/Renault Alliance?
Oh man.
Let me tell you,
that is all I know is that it's like, yeah, AMC and Renault, they're like, you know what, we'll just have this weird mashup because we want to get these AMC is like, we need a car that can quote unquote compete with the imports, and Renault's like, we need a dealership network, and so they just like shacked up after too many drinks one night and sharted out this baby, which apparently in period seemed to be pretty good, but like,
it had some tech, right? Like full independent suspension, I think. I think it had electronic fuel injection, so it wasn't carbureted like many cars from this period. I know it was really light. I know it had not a lot of features, and I know it was slower than dog shit. But I mean, what are you gonna do? It's a cheap car, good fuel economy, which is what like became a mainstream thing. Before that fuel crisis, no one really cared about fuel economy. Honestly, no one gave a shit at all.
Do we trust early 80s fuel economy ratings? Because I feel like everything was like overinflated by like 40%.
What are you talking about? The manufacturer claims 60 miles per gallon. The EPA says 22. Whatever, close enough.
Yeah, the manufacturers claim, and then that's with like complete stripper model with they hire an actual jockey to do the test loop, and like like 120 psi tires. I don't know. Like they have to
Symbol
pull
of
it every
gasoline
trick.
for the weight reduction. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny because you'll see all kinds of stuff like 36 miles a gallon. It'll be a full size truck,
I
and
really didn't have that much to say about the Alliance. It's just
nobody
funny I
does.
made this list because it's often reflected upon as being a not so good car. Boxy goodness, which we like. We like boxy cars in this period delivered, but man, there's something about the rear tire arch that just doesn't do me right. That little like smaller
Yeah, it's almost like
front.
spats, but not like it's
Yeah,
just very. It's
not
such an
feeling
also
it.
ran car. I don't know. I'm sure I have seen one in person before. I could not. I genuinely don't think I've even seen one and not recognized what it was. 2 decades? Like they don't exist anymore.
Yeah, who's keeping that on the road, right?
Not even like there's probably not a museum in the world that has one.
Maybe.
Maybe a garage that has one that's like nice, but probably not.
Maybe
I don't
abandoned
know.
garage. I don't know.
Well, what's something that's like far more genuinely decent off that list?
Dude,
Because there's some good stuff.
you ready? Ford Mustang GT, right? I
Yeah.
think we both agree that's a pretty solid, hard hitting car. 5.0, famous
5.0
5.0
carbureted.
engine, making, I think it was like, what did it make? 175 during this era? It made that,
175, 176, 177, something like that.
which was huge because before that it made like 150 something, which is
Yeah,
a big jump.
I think in the basement days it was like 145.
Ridiculous. Yeah.
In like 1980.
They
But
still,
yeah,
they still look cool too, right? Like I think those
I like
early
those earlier
Mustang
ones.
GTs, yeah. The power's not there because later you got up to like 220 plus horsepower, but you still got like the looks, a V8 rear wheel drive, 5-speed manual, which was cool, and drum brakes in the rear.
Yeah, buddy. Solid rear axle. The old Ford that was 8.8, I think. In that, I don't know. Was it a 9-inch?
Ooh, I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not a size queen, but like
Mm.
I do like those early facelift like pre-facelift models.
Yes.
With like the kind of the blackout stripe and like the faux hood scoop in the middle. I don't know.
Yep.
I'm a sucker for those, and they weren't kept nearly as they were sought after and preserved as the later cars, and at this point, 175 versus like 200 late run, like whatever, like it's all not terribly fast. So give me the more interesting earlier
Sure.
car. Yeah. Should I mention it just out of just to wave the flag? Should I be the one to mention the Celica Supra?
I knew you were gonna. I left that one
to.
on there. I wrote Freak better talk about this one. So
I mean, I have to, and it's interesting because you look at this stuff and you're like, oh, the Mustang was underpowered, like 175 horsepower, and it was like, I mean, 83 Supra was 150, right? And so I'm curious if, like, in retrospect, like, yeah, for the time that was pretty fast, but like, let's see should I look real quick and see what they said about it real quick?
Oh boy, I imagine they're going to mention the looks because I think it was a pretty good looking car when it came out. It looks more,
yeah, they say
it looks a lot more exciting than the Mustang. The Mustang's a good solid look, but I think the Supra or the Celica Supra just looked a little more futuristic for 83.
Yeah, it says wrap the whole thing in distinctive bodywork and gave it state-of-the-art interior, and one of the best original equipment sound systems available are all for the success. Put success in your favor. One is reluctant to speak of a quote man's car in these liberated times, but the Supra is exactly that. What a man's car. The pedal effort, the shift linkage, the steering, the throttle response, the ride motions are all masculine. Not fake macho, but positive male essence. Yeah, buddy.
It'll put extra hair in your balls, boy.
It'll put a ball in your ball.
Put balls on your hair.
Exactly. Which is interesting to think about.
Truck
like
nuts.
That was.
Sorry.
I mean, and how interesting is this? Like, I don't know. I haven't. Maybe we'll get to this eventually, one day. But like, I don't know what the current like top 10 best lists are. But like,
probably a Honda Accord on there. I assume.
Well, as there was in 1983.
Ooh, spoiler.
But what I'm saying is like a current one. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Half of them are straight up not overly priced, fairly affordable sports cars. Which I can't imagine that's on the current one. There aren't 5 affordable sports cars, I don't think. I mean, Mustang, Camaro
anymore, right?
Well, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's wild to think about because like you have the Supra from Japan, you've got the Mustang from America, you've got the 944, which
Yeah,
is on
another
this list
cool
for
car.
83, which is like the German fighter. If it were playing, the map on Street Fighter, where you get on the little plane, and Japan. It's like exactly.
Guile's theme in me, man.
Yes, sir.
So yeah, well, not to belabor 83 too much, but like
Yeah.
other big names on the list, obviously Honda Accord, we got to mention that. You
Second
said
gen.
Porsche 924, great car.
404.
RX-7, my friend,
Mm-hmm.
great rotary car making the list. Mercedes-Benz 380 SEL, that is a great car. Good
What's
looking
int-
car.
what's
They've stayed good looking.
What's interesting is I looked that car up, right? Because that wasn't like top of the heap. Well, what was interesting, so that car, like that's the one now nobody wants. Like if you're getting that generation S class, the 16, it's the 126. Like that's the one that like you can get for free. Like that's the one nobody wants. Do you know how much that car was in 1983 money? Base, no options,
Geez, I don't know. It had to be in the upper 30s, low 40s.
$48,000.
Okay.
That 944 was expensive at the time at 18,000.
Right, right.
So, yeah, big expensive car. There's an important one we haven't mentioned yet on here before we get to the 1984.
Ooh, what do you got?
Got the GTI, my friend, the Volkswagen Rabbit GTI.
Yeah, a perennial solid car review wise. Always a good selling car for Volkswagen.
Mm-hmm.
Got to mention that.
Not the Caprice Classic.
I'm not a super fan of the
No.
older Caprice or any. I didn't like. I actually like this one better than the '90s Caprice.
Really? Like the late, like the Impala one?
The huge ass one, yeah, mid '90s.
I mean, they're all huge ass.
No, but those for some reason the dimensions on those mid '90s ones, there's just like there's enough overhang for 3 cars when you look at a Caprice. It's kind of wild.
Yeah, what's funny is like they dare said in here that car got 30 miles a gallon in 1983 with the 305.
Shit. Yeah,
which
coasting
I
down a hill,
refuse to
engine
believe.
off.
Yeah, granted, speed limit's 55, so I'm sure the test loop's different, but like, I'm not buying that for a second.
No.
Carbureted 305. Car weighs what, 4,000 pounds?
Yeah,
No.
on its best day. Yeah.
No. But yeah, I don't know what the Rabbit weighed. The GTI probably under two. It's got to be under 2,000, right?
Right around 2. I'd say right around 2. Yeah, because
You know what that thing cost?
That had to be like an $11,000 car new.
$7,995.
Ooh,
Just
I
under
optioned-
$8K.
I optioned mine up, my friend.
You did. You did. What up? Should we option our way to 1984?
Yeah, let's see what Big Brother had on the list.
Let's see. Like what
See what I
was
did there?
I did. Look at that. So we've got a couple of duplicates. One we didn't talk about, which is a complete also ran on the other list that carries over to 1984.
Pontiac.
Pontiac.
That
Driving
6000
excitement.
was pretty cool, man. It was a pretty cool car.
Talk about a car I haven't seen forever.
They don't exist. They're not on the road anymore. No, it's like
Those
those
were all-
Sunbirds. You know, the later Sunbirds.
I think I'll occasionally see a Sunbird, but I don't.
Not on
Talk
the road.
about a
I've seen them on
car.
like Craigslist or Marketplace every once in a while, but not
I know that I
actually
have.
functioning in the real world.
No, unfunctionable. But like, yeah, it's that's a car that's just like a complete also ran, and like those were all 3800, like carbureted 3800s, right? Or was it a different motor?
Different motor. I don't think the 3800 was out yet, was it?
In 84? I don't know. I thought it was.
Maybe. I don't know.
Oh. You see, that's how utterly forgettable this damn car is.
They should.
Um,
It needed a quad 4 is what it needed. But you're skipping to like a very explosive topic car, the Pontiac Fiero 2M4.
Oh, I thought you were going a different kind of explosive.
Oh,
But
no,
yeah,
this
the
is really
Fiero.
explosive. Yeah.
Yeah. And it's funny because it's like, that's when this car launched, right? Was with that one.
Mhm.
And it's on the 10 best list, but it's universally known as those early ones being just utter garbage.
Because if you kept it before you hit that certain mileage threshold, you didn't have a fire risk, you know?
Yeah, the fire is under warranty. I don't know. It's interesting because it's like, yeah, we only remember the late run, and that's the only one anyone talks about. But clearly, 1984, they thought that thing was dare I say, cooking with fire. I mean, it was
I mean,
it
it
was
was a
something.
mid-engine GM car. You had to kind of give it some respect
Fair.
for going off the deep end there, even though it was totally a fuel economy minded car, not a sports car at all originally. But it's cool. It was a cool idea. The execution, not so much, but
I like how I just looked up here, like what some of the notes they said about it, and it was uh, the to this bolted plastic panels which form a rust-free outer skin. They're like, yeah, this like there's just a piece of plastic and like counterfeit space frame sort of, and like yeah, it won't rust. Jokes on them. This is early 80s GM. It will absolutely rust.
it won't live long enough without burning to the ground to rust. So I think that's what they
That's
meant.
fair. Yeah, it's yeah, and that's another one was a bit, roughly $8,000 to get yourself a Fiero, um, which is I don't know. I'd like to mess around with one of those one day. I've never really spent serious time with a Fiero. Have
If
you?
I do, it's purely GT late run. I'm not going to mess around with the
I
early
kind of want
stuff.
an Iron Duke pile of garbage. Like I kind of want to like do it right.
Dude, it's hard enough to find the GTs. I think people kept the GTs because they were somewhat reliable and easy enough to run. And I still think my dream would be taking one of those late model GTs and putting the 3800 supercharged engine in it, because I think that's a
Yeah,
beautiful pairing
yeah,
and
that would work.
reliable. You know,
Yeah, I know some people, some goofballs did some North Star swaps I've seen and things like that. I don't know.
38 supercharged. But
That's it.
a couple good Hondas on the list: the Accord and
There
one of
are.
our favorites, the Prelude, making the list.
That's right. Yeah, that's that second gen Prelude, which are cool. If you can find one where those twin carbs that are a mess to deal with if they're sorted, and they're good. They're fun little cars. They're not fast. They're not heavy.
Oh, good little car.
Yeah. Also, same kind of from the other list. The GTI and the Mark II Supra and the 944 are all carryovers.
Yep.
I'll let you get the Dodge, but I wanted to talk about the 626.
Yeah, it's a great car right there.
Those are cool. I don't know why they're uh, they made a coupe which you never see anymore. Like people remember the MX6 coupes, but the 626 coupe is something I don't know if I've ever seen one in a lot in the wild.
No, super rare.
But yeah, I had a buddy in high school who had a sedan. It was a hand me down. It had that shoot, what was it? I think it was a 2 liter. No, maybe it was a 2.2. I think this was a 2.2 NA with a 5 speed. So I think it was a little bit later. It was like an 86. And it ran hard. It was a good solid, well built car.
Those 626s in the early Maximas were
Mm-hmm.
super cool, and they looked good too.
Yeah.
You just don't find them anymore. That's the problem, right? There were so many at one point, and now they're just all gone.
Yeah.
So kind of
Yeah.
sad, but I
Yeah.
did like that
I'd
soft.
love a 626 coupe.
Oh, how cool would that be? And you can get them turbo later down
Mm-hmm.
the line, which is super cool. But another turbo, Dodge Daytona Turbo, makes this
Yes.
list, and I'm a huge fan of these old turbo Dodges, these 2.2s.
2.2s.
Yeah, what a cool engine, and way to buck the trend. You know, the Mustang didn't make the list this year, unfortunately. RIP, I guess, for the 5.0 for 84. But Dodge was like putting a Turbo 4 in their muscle car competitor, pony car competitor, and putting front wheel drive. So props to them for doing that. That's way ahead of the game. And I think those cars have aged incredibly well. They are such cool. If you see a clean one just cruising around, it's just going to catch your eye. It's the embodiment of 80s design.
Yeah, what's interesting is those cars were a lot of them were two-tone, which chef's kiss. I love me some two-tone.
Yes. Yep.
I always thought they looked good until you look at like the wheelbase and the overhangs.
Dude,
Because
that's
the
80s, baby.
wheelbase is very short and the overhangs are really long, and it's not that big of a car. It's certainly smaller than its competitors, right? The Mustang and the Camaro.
But not small. Yeah.
No, not small.
Not
It's
small.
not it's not omni small.
Probably the same
Although
wheelbase.
it might be. It might be. There's like the Omni has zero overhang. But yeah, just super unique in that era. And if it was, it's funny to think if those cars were Toyotas or Hondas,
Oh man, forget about
like
it.
yeah, like, but because it was a Chrysler product and came with all the mess that came with that with regards to reliability and everything. They get kind of a bad knock. But like, I don't know. I've seen some big miles on them. I think the ones that are left were the ones that like passed the decades of QC.
Yeah.
So the ones that are left now are still probably actually pretty okay. There's not a great reputation, but I like the way they look.
Super cool looking.
Yeah. What about should we travel to the future?
1985.
1985, and I just want to start off with a car that was also on the 84 list that we didn't mention, and it's kind of a car nobody thinks about anymore. The Audi, other than I believe Outkast mentioned it, and I don't remember which song, but the Audi 5000.
Yeah.
You got to get Audi 5000, and they had the NA. I think it was the 2.5 or the 2.4 inline 5, the one they had forever.
2.5, I believe.
2.5, yeah, and then they had the turbo one, which those cars, we don't think about them now at all, but apparently in period, 2 point whatever, they were very well regarded, but that's a car you never see anymore.
Never see them. And yeah, it's kind of a shame because they had a cool style. They were very boxy. Audi used to be kind of weird. Like I miss that Audi's not weird anymore. I mean, the TT was probably their last. I mean, you got the R8, but the TT was kind of their last really weird thing, right?
Yeah, they went from like Germany's Saab, for lack of a better way to put it, to fancy Volkswagen.
It's all it is, yeah.
Which is in a lot of ways is a shame. Because I like me some weird, but yeah, those earlier cars. Like, have you ever poked around the hood of one of those?
Yeah, it's really interesting to like how they chose to lay everything out. Like, and it wasn't just later they stuffed that motor into just about everything. So you could get like they came in coupes, they came in 4-doors. Wagons were super rare. I wish we would have got more of the old wagons. I think that's what Audi's like trademark was, like really hot wagons. I thought they were really good at that in those boxy designs.
Yeah, and
we always got the sedan and coupe, mostly sedan.
Yeah, we did get a few of the wagons of this era, but they didn't, for whatever reason, didn't sell. And Audi had a big image problem in this era because of the diesel runaway stuff that they had. Which was sort of much. I don't want to say much ado about nothing, but overblown. But they're cool because it's like the designs were good, the build quality was good, but yeah, under the hood is weird. Like the front of the engine is basically basically touching the front bumper to the point where they set the radiator off to the side and at an angle. It's goofball, and I miss the goofball.
They were characters for sure.
What else is tickling you?
A couple good ones here. The Mustang rivals on here, the Camaro IROC-Z. Like to see that guy show up. We also have the Mercure XR4 Ti, baby. Little Ford Sierra action that we got in the States, and that didn't last very long, did it? And the perennial favorite, Pontiac 6000 on the list again, baby. Ooh, Pontiac. Boy,
let's go. Just dominating.
We'll note that the Fiero did not make it back this year. It had already burnt down.
It did,
later half of 83.
May it rest in peace. That, and then interesting that the C4 Corvette launched in 84. Nope, not on the list.
Not
made some changes. 1985 rolls around. Guess what? We're on the list.
Corvette, baby. Man, GM hitting hard. Camaro, IROC-Z, and Corvette both on the list. Those are two awesome cars to have, and a minivan.
6000.
Dude, Dodge Caravan.
Yes, and that's a special car. Like that was talk about just setting the stage for that minivans are passe now, and we don't really talk about minivans. I mean, we do, but the greater automotive, humanity doesn't, which is a shame because I think they're still cool, and especially minivans of this era were minivans, like they were way smaller.
Right.
Yeah, get a turbocharged one, some fake wood paneling.
Oh God, please. Porsche 944 still showing up, still coming
strong. The Prelude is back. Honda Civic at CRX. How about that?
I like that, and the Accord's on there too. So Honda was just. I think this is when we start to see Honda as a brand still instead of just cheap options, start putting out quality options. And this is kind of how they reposition themselves as like a market leader, because, you know, all the old Civics were just cheap shit Econo boxes, which, you know, in my heart, I love. But, you know, once they started rolling out this stuff, like the Prelude's a viable sports car for the time, sports car. The Civic was like your economical commuter. You had the CRX, which was kind of like an economical sports car. I guess you could kind of do that's what the attempt was. And then you got the Accord, which is another just larger Civic. Let's be honest, that's all it's ever been. And Honda was nailing it. Like all 4 of those cars made the list in 85. Out of a top 10 list, 40% of the list being occupied by one brand. Got to say something about it.
Right. Yeah. And they had what? They had the Civic and CRX, and they had the Accord, and they had the Prelude. Was that their entire lineup? In 85?
When did the
outside of motorcycles?
When did the Odyssey come out?
Oh, that was later. That
Much
was
later?
like 93?
I guarantee they were starting to build them and like demo them and try to come up with their own minivan, because minivans started getting hot in the mid to late 80s. So right now we're probably gonna see a couple more.
Yeah.
Minivans.
Yeah, but it's wild to think. I think the entire, it's basically for 1985 the entire Honda lineup made it. And you know what? You know what the reported curb weight of that CRX was in 85?
1970.
1750.
That's insanely low.
And that's base. I'm sure you can option it up with you know, the 3-speed auto.
Some crash bars.
Yeah, exactly. So interesting. It's funny, like I feel like the difference between 83 and 85, like 85 already feels far more modern.
Yep.
And far more, I don't know, far less Caprice classic-y.
Well, I feel, you know, honestly, like the early 80s was just trying to catch up with fuel efficient technology and cars that didn't completely suck. And I think each year that goes by, we're going to see it develop into actual cars that are respectable and still get good fuel economy. I think that's what the list is starting to show. We're starting to see like turbo things showing up and like kind of performance variants that don't suck. Like the IROC Z, the early ones were pretty cool. Score one of those in a manual is a sweet car, but we ready for 86? Because I think we're going to kick it up a big notch for 86.
Dude, 86 is talk about the difference. Like difference between 83 and 85 is pretty significant. 86 feels like, oh boy, like now we've got some heavy hitters here.
Let's buzz through this whole list for sure, because I don't think we should leave anything off of this one.
No. So first off, our friend the Audi 5000 is here. However, it's got a new party trick.
Is it bringing 4 party tricks to this?
It is.
Table?
It is.
Nice.
It was bringing 2 before. Now it's got 4 because it's still got our inline 5. It's still turbocharged. Quattro. Yeah, Quattro. Yeah. And yeah, very cool. Kind of. I mean, definitely. I don't want to say ahead of its time. It like made its time.
Yeah. Totally awesome.
Yeah. Yeah. How cool is that? So it's funny to be like, oh, yep, more of these cars are still on here, and it's like, yeah, the Pontiac 6000 is finally off the list. But this car stayed on because it innovated and added Quattro and added an intercooler and did some other stuff. Your friend Corvette is still here.
Good. Yeah. C4 kicking ass. What a cool car. I think those have actually aged quite well. I know the interiors are kind of rough, but man, I think when you see a C4 in the wild, they just look cool. It's just, I don't know. It's
with that bitch in 7-speed manual, the 4+3.
Don't do it. Yeah.
You old Doug Nash.
Just get a ZR1. You don't have to worry about that.
It's true. That's true. And then what else we got? There's a pretty special one next. It's a twofer.
Yeah. How about something that saved a car company?
That's what I'm talking about.
We're going to bring up the Ford Taurus in 86, which honestly single-handedly recovered Ford's slump at that time, presenting a new passenger car that looked nothing like anything else on the road, really. And good enough for RoboCop, good enough for me, is what I always say. So
definitely, yeah.
If it's good, Ford Taurus, baby.
If it's good enough to get riddled with bullet holes by Ed, what's Ed? Whatever. What's the robot name? The murder robot.
Oh,
like Ed 3000 or whatever it is.
Yeah.
Something like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Then it's good enough for me. But yeah, like that's a and we're not even talking SHO. I mean, these
Not yet.
when they came out, the powertrain was fairly mundane, but it
Mhm.
was the design, the aero, the look.
Flush
It's funny.
headlights.
Yeah, and it's funny we think about like we look back at those cars now and be like, oh, the build quality is garbage. But then the build
Huh?
quality was like way better, and that's how bad it was earlier in the '80s. So that was a very special car. That SHO that we co-owned
Yeah, the 89 for
showed me the light.
sure. Yeah, that was way ahead of talk about a spaceship with that Yamaha engine. But
Mm-hmm.
Honda making the list with only 2 this year, the Prelude and Accord
Mm-hmm.
soldiering on for the make. We got a Lincoln Mark 7 on here, so you got to have your
Dude,
luxury boats,
the
what I'm saying?
LSC, the luxury. I always is it luxury sports car or Lincoln sports car? I never remembered.
Or was it luxury sports coupe? I can't remember.
Oh,
'Cause
that one.
that was
It's
the
probably
2
luxury sports
Wurzel.
coupe.
Maybe. And you got the
It's
Mercury Sable, which is wow, the Ford Taurus made the list. How about its fucking twin brother, the Sable?
light bars, baby, light bars.
Light bars for life. You got the a lot of turbo showing up. We got the 944 turbo and something near and dear to our hearts, the the Saab 9000 turbo.
Yeah,
Cool car.
those are cool. I'd love a 9000 Aero one day.
Oh man. Yeah,
One
nice
day.
clean one manual. That's a car I don't mind getting in black. For some reason, they look really good in black. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, black. That's kind of all anytime I close my eyes and see one, it's either that or red. Because I've seen a couple of red ones, which I feel like is actually pretty uncommon.
It is. I think so. Yeah, most of them are like that gray or black. Or speaking of mid-engines, my friend, your Fiero isn't on the list, but we get a slightly better mid-engine car in the Toyota MR2 for 86, and what a cool car! What a damn cool car!
And what a I don't know. In my head, it's just like the Fiero came out, and then Toyota was like, hold my Sapporo.
Saki, yes,
that's right. It's because it's a I don't know. It's just such a better car in all respects. Now it was more expensive.
Yes.
It was built at a different price point, but like just truly a cool car. And I desperately want to own one still. And I know we've talked about it probably somewhat ad nauseum here on the pod, but yeah, just really, 7,500 RPM red line. Just cool. Super wedgy, like wedgy as you can get.
Lightweight, mid-engines, rear-wheel drive, just the right combination of things.
They don't light themselves on fire.
Yeah, I mean, interior quality kind of stunk a little bit. The paint didn't hold up at all, but you can still find them out there. You're probably going to do a bit of maintenance to get them back up to snuff. But God, cool cars. We got to secure one if we're ever going to secure one. Now is the time.
Yeah, that would be a fun rally mobile rally machine.
That'd be the perfect rally machine.
That would be fun.
Supercharged one too.
Yeah, supercharged T-tops. Yes, a little bit of torques.
What's the last one on this list? The perennial favorite, the GTI.
The G to the T to the I. Yeah. Just still looking good. Still not bringing a lot of power, but it not mattering. Like it's just still just a bucket of fun.
That's all it is.
Do you think a whole lot has changed by the time we get to 87?
I saw some really cool shit on that list. There's some cars return with better engines. Some new cars are on the list that we consider like some of our favorites. So I think so.
Would I dare say the spiritual successor to the Pontiac 6000 is on this list?
Yeah, a really near and dear to my heart car, the Pontiac Bonneville.
Bonnie.
Not in supercharged, guys, yet. That's way too ahead of the game. This is the SE. What a great car. Kind of like a big comfy cruiser with some sporty touches because it's Pontiac. They do build driving excitement. I like those cars. We also have like a new Honda product that I need to mention. The Acura Integra, my friend.
Yes. There we go.
First Acura to make a list.
I love those. First gen Integras. And I almost don't understand why. But if you ever just drive any Honda of that period, because on paper it's like not impressive, but you just drive something and it's like, oh, like I get it. Like they're put together well, they're zippy, they're fun, they're lively. Pop-up headlights. You can get white with white wheels. What's not to love?
Yeah, pre VTEC, but still there's some peppiness in that engine. And they look great. Like you said, the design is still very nice. Cool
Yeah,
car.
and that was, I mean, that was like setting the stage for Acura, which is, I don't want to say fallen on hard times, but they're not the powerhouse that they once were. Um, but those
No.
cars were what, 112, 115 horsepower, something like that,
Yeah, I think
113,
somewhere right in there. So nothing too exciting, but
but light and revvy
yeah,
and well put together. Yeah, I'd like to get my hands on one of those, a real clean one.
hard to find. That's a real
hmm
hard car to source.
You know what else is hard to find?
Oh,
Working and unscrewed with.
does it also have a turbo? This car you're thinking of?
Does
Ah, does it have?
FCRX7 with a
I was gonna
turbo.
say a lack of pistons too. Yeah,
Mini
dude,
Doritos.
those things are so cool, man. The 80s RX-7, just the right size. The photos for some reason make them look a lot bigger than they are in real life. And when you get next
hmm
to one, you're like, this is a minuscule little car. It's a
Yeah,
very
it's
small
funny.
car.
Like those were my least. Like I didn't like those cars really for a long time. I don't know why.
Hmm.
But they just never really did anything for me. I thought the styling was too blasé, and the most and other than the turbos, the NA ones were just like, oh, it's the same powertrain as the 13B out of the earlier car, just like with more weight.
Mm-hmm.
But they've really grown on me. I'd really like one. You can get a convertible one with a manual, an NA one for not a lot of money.
Right.
Um, and they're still pretty cool. But those turbo ones are great.
Yeah. Owner beware on maintenance. If it's not been well kept, you're gonna have to make
Mhm.
up those costs, I assure you.
One day,
Yeah, one day you
cry now or cry later.
yeah, just cry. But yeah, that's pretty much it. What about do we have Mustang GT back on the list? Accord
hmm
is there yet again. Ford Taurus, and that's pretty much it. What is your favorite car on this list, Frank? If you pick
Oh
two.
man,
You get to get
pick
two of
two.
these in pretty good condition, decent mileage that you get to own. What do you pick? 1987 in the house.
Just 87.
That's it. It's our final year, final list.
Um,
What do you want?
boy, I don't think on the Saab. I think in the Saab 9000, I don't think the Aero existed yet. I think the Turbo did, but I don't think they got the Aero till a little bit later.
The turbo definitely
And
existed.
that's
Yeah.
yeah, but that's the one I would want would be the Aero. So I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go. Man,
Oh,
I have to go. I think RX-7 and MR2, but I'm 1 year away from the supercharged MR2.
too bad, so sad. You are getting it for free though.
Yeah, I'll do MR2 and RX-7 Turbo. I think those
Talk
are the
about
two I'm taking home.
competitive use cases for both those cars. They're kind of like segment competitors. I
Yeah.
like that. I feel like 87.
hmm
Oh my gosh. I don't know. I got to go with the Saab 9000 Turbo just as because it can
Okay.
still serve as a daily. It's still pretty
Sure.
comfy. And then got to go MR2, man. I can't get over how cool those are. So that'd be my fun sports weekend car, and the Saab would get it done during the week.
Yeah, I considered 4-door, or I suppose it's 5-door Integra for
Oh,
the
yeah.
daily duty.
That's right.
Because that would get it done. But yeah,
Sweet.
80s, man. Interesting decade. Like a lot can happen in 5 years, I think is probably the moral of the story. Because I looked, even the Mustang was now up to 225 horsepower in 87.
Right.
So I
Everything
mean,
we went from 83 to 87. That list got quite a bit spicier, to tell you the
mhm.
truth.
Yeah, and far more livable. Like imagine living with an Integra versus like a Renault Alliance. Like just like as a daily, as like a sensible daily.
or,
Just
or a
light years
Pontiac
difference.
Fiero, early fire prone.
Yeah, or an MR2.
Imagine
Or
just living.
right, I can't. Um yeah, it's
Sweet,
it's
man.
really interesting exercise. And yeah, we'll have to do 88 to 92. And I bet you now talk about leaps and bounds.
Oh,
That'll be an
dude.
interesting
The late
interesting
80s,
list.
early 90s, it's going to be fire, man. I can't wait.
Yeah. Yeah. And then 93 and up. Ooh, be still my heart.
This was fun. You guys let us know if you agree with our
Mhm.
choices. Let us know if you have any personal thoughts on how these cars bought their way onto the list and they don't belong there at all. Renault.
Yeah, I was just about to say. And how did Car and Driver completely botch this entire thing? And none of these cars should be on here. Or what is like just not on here that's like ultra snubbed? and that should have been on here. I
Mhm.
I want to say at the time they had. Well, no, maybe they didn't have like a price ceiling because that 380 SEL was like all the money in the world.
Yeah.
Um, so I don't know. Maybe they corrected that, but I feel like there was all of these cars were pretty reasonably priced in the grand scheme of things. But yeah, who got snubbed, man? Who should have been on there?
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes.
Comment
Speaking,
in outrage. But yeah, that was a fun little exercise. I like that. I can't wait for
yeah,
the next one. I'm super excited.
yes,
But it is
yes.
time, my friend, for
Hmm.
me to quiz you on our game called the Automotive Print Ad Quiz Game. I'm going to get my ad up if you don't mind explaining to the good people what we do in these parts.
I will, good sir. So yes, the automotive print ad quiz game that we still is terribly named. Um, yeah. So the way this works is Chadwick here is going to find a piece of print ad copy from the 80s or the 90s up into the, I don't know, mid-ish 2000s. And he's going to read that type copy whilst omitting and redacting out any overly identifying information. I get 3 attempts to guess on what vehicle, make and model, and date range ish he is talking about. If I screw this up and guess wrong and I can ask for a hint, I get 10 minutes once he's done reading said advertisement. Are you, the listeners, ready? You can take notes. You can feel free to yell at your screen or your first generation iPod or whatever you're listening to, your Zune, or you can. So I'm ready. If you're ready, Chadwick, are you ready?
I'm super ready, and this is a fun one.
Come at me, bro.
I think it's going to be a good one. So the ad itself, the layout, single page,
Mhm.
we have what looks like a family tree, like a lineage line, to go into their offspring and what they became of vehicles. These are all vehicles in this instance, and we have our subject topic, the car doing a passenger side 3/4 front view, just kind of
Okay.
hanging out, looking good in black, looking very, very studious.
Ooh.
I'm gonna have to omit some information because I don't want to sink this one with just
Sure.
one too many clues. But here we go,
Get
my
it.
friend. It gets its aggressive streak from its wild uncle. Its
Hmm.
great grandmother was a tour bus. Its father, a safe, practical blank. But the new blank shows definite signs of a type A personality.
Hmm.
Sleeker aerodynamics, 16-inch alloy wheels, a stiffened sports suspension, a 185 horsepower
Hmm.
intercooled turbo engine. Switched at birth? No, just a case of a car company with blank in its bloodlines. The new blank. Go ahead, Frank.
Ooh.
10 minutes on the clock.
Boy. 185 turbocharged. You said intercooled?
Intercooled.
Intercooled.
Can't get much cooler than that.
185. No, what's cooler than being cool?
Intercooled.
Ah, you're supposed to say ice cold.
Damn it.
All right, all right, all right, all right, all right, all right.
Nice to meet you.
The 85 intercooled sports suspension.
Mhm.
Yo, mama was a school bus.
Damn.
Boy, tricky number because a lot of things are 200.
Mhm.
I don't. That's right about the same horsepower that our RX-7 Turbo would be. I think specifically the Turbo 2, which is like 185, 188, right there. I didn't talk about spinning Doritos. We didn't get a door count. Um, didn't get a displacement. I don't think there's any. Well, no, there's not anything. I don't think from Mitsubishi or Toyota that fits this bill. Really, nothing from. This could be Swedish. Swedish. I don't think it's British. I'm gonna go, and it very well, it could be a slew of different oddly turbocharged things stateside. I think I'm gonna go with my first gut here. I'm gonna say it was a car that was on our list in 1987. I'm going to say this is a 1980. I'm going to say it's a turbo 2 though. So I'm going to say it's a 1990. Let's call it 90. 1990 Mazda RX-7 Turbo 2. Final answer, Chadwick.
Frank, the Mazda doesn't get its aggressive streak from its uncle, unfortunately. So,
Okay.
different family heritage for that turbo rotary.
Got it. Yeah, I didn't know if they were like referencing the JDM Mazda bongo or something for the ant that hauls the kids.
Right.
Okay. I think if that's not it, I think I'm probably on the wrong nation of origin. Is that correct? Did I guess the wrong country of origin?
This is not a Japanese vehicle, my friend.
Okay. I'm gonna think it's the way the type copy is written. Did you say chrome 16-inch chrome?
No, 16-inch alloy wheels.
Alloy, just alloy. My brain colored them chrome.
Oh.
Could be domestic, 185 horsepower. Could it be? I don't know. I'm trying to think at what point did a Dodge Daytona make 185 horsepower? That's what I'm going to go with. I'm thinking this is I don't think the IROC. I think it's one of the intermediate ones. I'm going to say it's a 1988 Dodge Daytona RT Turbo. Final answer?
The Dodges definitely had a wild uncle, but they didn't get the aggressiveness from them either. So,
boy,
we're not talking about a Dodge Daytona here.
Okay. So is it one of the? It's not going to nail it down that much, but I'm mentally thinking it's got to be one of the other big three. So Ford or GM. Is this a Ford or GM General Motors product, or is that too much?
It is not, my friend.
Okay.
It's not domestic at all.
Sure. So 1985. So maybe it is Swedish. I think based upon the cars that we've gone through, I think it almost has to be on our list. Like it has to be one of the car and driver cars. I might be reading too much into what we were just talking about. I don't. Ooh, I mean, it could be a 944 turbo. I want to say those were 188, not 185. But it's hard because there was a turbo and Turbo S, and then there was North American spec and rest of the world. So it could be that. What's my time, sir? I haven't been paying attention.
You have 4 minutes and 17 seconds.
Okay.
So you're doing okay.
I've been trying to keep my times up. Boy. So it could be something like a 740 turbo, 760 turbo. Could be a 200 series turbo. I don't think it would be a 900 series turbo, which is just a revamped 700 series. I'm going to shy away from Volvo, although they did make some heavy machinery. But so did Porsche. They had like the race bus that had all the stuff in it. Maybe that's the great aunt. I don't know. I'm going to say I don't think it's, and I'm just leaving Saab out there for some reason. You know what? I'm going to do this. I'm going to say it's actually a Saab 9000 Turbo. That was on the list. Kind of fits the bill here. It's roughly, or was it more 200? I don't know. I'm just going to, you know what? I'm just going to go with it there's not a lot for me to ask clarifying. I think I've squeezed enough juice out of you as far as hints. I've as Robert Plant said, I've squeezed your lemon until the juice ran down your leg. I'm gonna say this is a 1987 Saab 9000 Turbo. Final answer.
You get a ballpark bonus, although this is not the car. So this, what we're actually talking, is quite a bit later. This is a Saab 900 SE Turbo from 1994.
Okay. Wow.
So
okay.
A little more fresh. So I'll give you like a partial kind of credit pass on that one. The line I had to omit, and I think you got back to pretty good, was not just a case of car. It said switched at birth. It said no, just a case of a car company with jet fuel in its bloodlines. So I didn't want to like give it away if I read that part of the ad, but the lineage is cool. It shows all the different cars, and then the wild uncle is the Vigan fighter plane.
That's dope. That's sick.
So it's cool. Yeah, Saab 900 SE Turbo Coupe, which was an evolution of what was it before? Was the original?
What was the 9.3? Or sorry, the 900, and then they carried the name over for a couple of years, and then they changed it to the 9.3.
Yeah, which was cool. And then the 9.3 became the 9.3, more GM focused 9.3 in the early 2000s. But yeah, super cool car. It's in black. It's got the tri-spoke wheels. Looks really good. So I figured we had to give some more Saab classic love. And you did very good, man. You named like very similar power plant cars. Like everything is ballpark that horsepower.
Yeah, and it's interesting because I think when those came out, like the base, maybe the base was only like 170 and the SE was 185. And then later in the 90s, I think the base was 185 and the SE got you to 200 horsepower, and then the Vigan was like 220.
Yeah, Vigan was like 230, I think.
You might be right. Yeah, you might be.
With the 2.3 turbo, yeah.
Yeah, but cool, man. Yeah, I don't know. I know we've talked Swedish meatballs before, and we've talked some Saab and Saab stories. But yeah, fun cars. Saab. We need a new. That's what my hope is. Like in the age of electrification, we get a new Saab.
Ooh.
Where like somebody does something way weird, and not just appliancey, something totally bizarro. Maybe that'll be Canoe. I don't know.
I just need to buy another old Saab. It's been a while since I've owned one, and I love the damn thing. So
I support you in this decision, sir.
Yeah, just what I need, man. Just what I need. But we can celebrate victories and we can celebrate losses, and we can use and abuse substances, preferably PCP, Project Car Progress. And have you done any lately, Frank? Have you progressed any of your projects?
Sort of. So I think last we left off in the saga of me getting rid of some cars. Guess what? I bought 3 more. No, I didn't. What I did do though is we were talking about how I sold the Civic hybrid off to a new owner, and it promptly popped the check engine light on the young man, which I didn't feel particularly good about, but I wasn't going to leave him in a lurch. So I did. I got to pick and pull. I harvested a new charcoal canister assembly. I bench tested everything. It all looks good. I cleaned it up. I blew it out. And I met up with the guy, and I was like, hey, like, this is the deal. If this doesn't do it, try just like having it vent to atmosphere and see if it throws a different code, or if it fixes itself, then it's downstream from any of the sensors. And he was really cool. He's like, hey, thanks, man. Like, you didn't have to do this. I appreciate that. He's like, if this doesn't work, car's been running great. I'm not even gonna bug you about it. Like, thanks for because I drove down to him in Fremont or wherever, handed him the part. He's like, thanks, bro. Like, you won't. He basically was like, you're not gonna hear from me again. I was like, okay, good. So he was very happy and very appreciative. I paid $25 for the part, and it was an hour of my time to fish it out from the junkyard car and clean it up and bench test it and stuff. So ultimately, unless he calls me tomorrow and says it burst into flames, in which case there's nothing I can do for him. Like, it is what it is. So that is officially one car now completely off my shoulders. And
he's doing it, folks. He's freaking doing it.
It's happening. Cue the what's his face? Old white politician dude. I mean, that's every politician, but you know what I mean. Anyways, meme, GIF memes. It's happening. So that is happening. Other than that,
Awesome.
I haven't made a whole lot of other progress yet. How about you? Have you been more productive than I?
I've been pretty busy. So working the Trooper's almost finished up. Well, actually, is finished up. I just did the exterior, which I talked about last time. So that's off the books right now. The
Sweet.
NX 2000's in crunch mode to try to get ready for an upcoming event.
Mhm.
One of the weirdest thing is it had an aftermarket cruise control, which is pretty crazy. And it was a period cruise control, which was super cool. So it looks really easy. Has a vacuum actuated, basically mechanical feature. Has a cable going parallel to the throttle cable, kind of leaked up, kind of weird. And then it has a source of electricity and then a ground, and you have to disconnect all that. And then where things get dicey is it splices into the wiring harness under the dash. And I'm like, son of a bitch.
Mhm.
So if you don't pay attention and you go in there and you start cutting things that go to, I don't know, your ECU, you could potentially brick your car by cutting the wrong wire, especially with
Yeah.
something like a cruise control system. So I ended up carefully having to pull, splice that whole wiring harness apart and trace everything back, because my obsessiveness, I'm not going to let wires just dangle around, but ended up being a bigger job than I thought, man, for sure. And the unit's really big. It looks like a loudspeaker almost, like just massive. Weirdest thing. It has a switch on the inside, like that came with it and everything. So pretty crazy stuff, man.
Is it tied into like a speed sensor or anything at all, or it's just manual, like on off? Like you flip it and it just holds speed. It just like goes.
No, it
and
has
grips
all the
onto
functionality of a cruise control, so you can accelerate and do all that. But it ties into like the reading that goes to the ECU, so it can tell the vehicle speed is how that works.
Okay.
But it also piggybacks directly physically off of the throttle cable, so they're like tied together at the throttle. It looks so cheap. It looks so dangerous. So I wanted to get it out of there because that's just extra nightmare fuel for me. But I did that, and then I did valve cover gasket. Which is kind of a pain on the butt on the SR20. Dude, and the weirdest thing, so this one has like, it's all got studs and nuts that hold it on. And there's like a little, you've seen these before that go on the studs. They're like a metal cap with a rubber like O-ring underneath, right?
Yes.
For some reason, and I don't know how, this thing was leaking like just pouring out. The guy just used the rubber parts. It didn't have the brass part. So when you torque down the nut, it wasn't putting any pressure on the valve cover, right?
Oh, yeah.
Solid. So it's like, this is the weirdest thing.
Yeah,
they were
I did
hard as plastic, though.
Yeah, when I was in college and I didn't know any better, when I did the head gasket on the Mark II Supra that I paid $400 for, putting it all back together, and I put the valve covers on it, and it's a similar deal. It's got like, each valve cover has, I think, 3 like center, like large heavy screws right in the middle, 1, 2, 3. And you put the little rubber grommet and then that makes up the space. So when you torque it down, it holds everything nice. And I was like putting it together. I was like, what are these stupid rubber things for? I don't know. And I just like didn't think about it. And I go to put it on and I start it and it's like puking oil everywhere. I'm like, and then I look back at the rubber things. I'm like, oh, okay. I completely understand what these are for now. Like they actually let you torque it down. So similar deal.
So I have no idea why he thought that was a good idea. You can't torque down a rubber piece. So it definitely didn't have enough pressure.
Wasn't me, I swear.
They were all like finger tightened too. So yeah, nightmare, dude. I did that. And there's like the O-rings around the spark plug holes. 2 of them are leaking into the spark plugs. That's why I tell people, don't panic when you see like oil on your spark plugs if it's above where it threads in, because that's just the O-ring.
Easy fix. Yeah.
Yeah, so no worries there. The interesting thing was he like teed it off of the brake booster for the cruise control. So I had to like fix that, because that is not where you want a vacuum leak.
No.
But honestly, that's pretty much it. Oh, the other thing, dude, RTV with valve cover gaskets. Now, SR20, these dual overhead cam engines, you can go over the cam lobes, do the corners, just a little bit, right, of RTV. Whoever did this put like a whole tube around the entire perimeter, and it was probably done like 10 years ago. So getting that mating surface clean with a plastic like razor blade took me literally 2 hours.
Yeah.
It was a goddamn nightmare. And there was like half of it resided in the valve train, about to fall perilously into something important. So
hit it with some compressed air, blow it all out.
I just flush it all down in,
Oh, good.
Yeah, run it through. It cleans carbon deposits. I don't know if you heard that, but
yeah, it's go full the full new Subiotas. You know what I mean? Where they just RTV clog up the oil pickup.
Too soon, my man. But yeah, that's it. Starting to make some progress, but boy, I've got a lot to do in this car, man. But
yeah,
NX 2000, get some love.
Hell yeah, brother. Well, no, that's good.
Yeah.
That's good. That'll be exciting for whatever this mysterious event that we may or may not be talking about in the future.
Like in a week from now.
Yeah, exactly. Stay tuned. But yeah, man, that'll be fun. Those cars are they need to be out in the wild more, and I'm glad to see that one. And what do they call that color? That royal blue?
Electric blue, and I think it's the same that was on the they brought it back later, or variant for the R34 Skyline that we all celebrate. So
You basically have a Skyline.
Yeah, it's essentially.
Mhm.
Essentially, you know.
Very cool. Well, I will be excited to see that. Maybe almost as much as y'alls are going to be excited to watch the next episode of this terrible podcast that we do, which truly is another pointless automotive podcast. So thank you guys for putting up with our nonsense and listening and watching and accosting us while you listen, yelling into the sky and Quattro or whatever it is that you're yelling at us. So thank you for that. Hopefully the audio is extra spicy in quality this week because of my my new contraptionage. And thank you for checking us out on both YouTube, another Pointless Automotive Podcast, and at APA Podcast on the Scramgram. If people want to scramble to your Gramble there, Mr. Chadwick, how would one do that, or any other place where people can find you?
Yeah, Auto Obsessive Garage. I am on the gram, but mostly on YouTube for those rescues, restorations, and reviews. Check me out there. And Frank, where the good people going to go to follow you?
You can find me on JDate, or what did I see somebody mention? Foot Finder. Apparently that's like a foot thing.
I haven't seen you on Foot Finder, so you might have a
well, no, I've been waxing my feet now, so it's harder to pin me down. Unless you want to be. But the you can find me there. You can find me on also on Instagram and the YouTubes. That's the Photographer's Garage. And yeah, again, thanks for putting up with us. Catch us next week and every Wednesday. We're almost to 100. I don't know. We don't know what we're gonna do for 100. We haven't figured out our is it a centennial? I don't know what we're gonna call it. Our the human cent episode. So stay tuned for that. We may or not be sewing things to the other ends of things. And until then,
dibs on front.
Cuttlefish and asparagus. Okay.
As always,
thank
guys,
you, everybody.
Thank you. Take care.